Hi everyone and welcome back. Today I've got a classic recipe for you, fried polenta. This is both easy to make and always a crowd pleaser. So let's get started. We are going to start by adding 2 cups of cool drinking water to a pot. I don't actually have a measuring cup, so I'm using a coffee mug that I had on hand. This recipe works great as a ratio recipe. That means 3 parts of liquid to 1 part polenta will work. Doesn't matter what size vessel you use, as long as they're equal portions. The next ingredient on the list is 1 cup of cool milk. If you don't drink milk or would like to convert this recipe to be vegan friendly, simply replace the cup of milk with 1 cup of water or 1 cup of vegetable stock. They will work equally as well. The next ingredient on the list is going to be 1 chicken bouillon cube. Again, if you're making this a vegan friendly recipe, simply substitute the chicken bouillon for vegetable bouillon. And last but certainly not least, the polenta itself. Here we are using instant polenta, which cooks in 2 minutes. You want to make sure to look for instant polenta. If not, you have to cook polenta for around 20 to 30 minutes to get soft. The instant polenta is substantially easier to make and a lot quicker. At this point, we are going to go ahead and measure out 1 cup of the dried polenta, but we will not add it yet. Great. With the pot on medium-high heat, we will now prepare our mold. Here I'm using a dinner plate, however traditionally a sheet pan is used. It doesn't really matter what you use, so long as you can form the polenta into a relatively even layer to cool. Regardless of what you use as a mold, it's very important that the polenta does not stick. Here, you will see I'm using some margarine to spread over the plate so that when I pour the cooked polenta in, it will release after cooled. I'm simply taking a paper towel and using it to spread margarine all over the entire surface so that nothing will stick after the polenta is cooled into a formed cake. As the mixture starts to get hot and prepares to boil, make sure to stir that bouillon cube and break it up so that it does not stick on the bottom and burn. As the recipe draws close, it's very important that you have your mold ready, your dried polenta ready, and your liquid is coming up to a boil. Once this comes together, it will happen relatively fast. As you can see here, the milk is starting to bubble and come to a boil, so we will begin adding the polenta. As we start adding the polenta, it is very important to slowly sprinkle the polenta in while constantly stirring the liquid. If you are to pour the entire cup of polenta in at once, you will have lumps. If you do not stir constantly while adding the polenta, you will have lumps. These are not easy to work out. It's much simpler, much easier. Just make sure to constantly stir as you shake and drizzle in the polenta slowly, little by little. It will look like there's too much liquid at first, as it does here. However, in just a few moments, you will see the polenta absorb all of the cooking liquid. As the mixture continues to cook, make sure to continuously stir. This will create a more even product at the end, as well as prevent any lumps from forming. Be careful because this is a really hot mixture and it can bubble up and splash on you slightly. As you see here, I'm going to go ahead and pull it off the heat for a moment because it gets a little bit too energetic. I'm going to continue to stir, place back on the heat for a moment. As you can see there, it spat up on me a little bit, no worries. clean up a little bit, and continue to cook. Notice the mixture is thickening as I place it back onto the heat and some of the liquid continues to boil off. At this point, we want to make sure that the polenta is cooked thoroughly and all the liquid has been absorbed. We will continue to stir constantly over heat until the mixture is as thick as we like. You're looking for a rather thick consistency, nothing too runny because it won't set properly. If you're using a cheese, this is the point you want to add it. Most recipes that I have found in the past call for a half a cup of Parmesan cheese, which should be added now. You can also add something like sharp cheddar, Monterey Jack, anything that's a slightly drier cheese would be good in this recipe. I do recommend you stick away from high moisture cheeses because at this point you're really trying to drive out that moisture so that when we fry it, it creates a nice crisp exterior with a nice fluffy interior. Again, if you're making this recipe vegan friendly, simply omit the cheese, as you see I did here. It will still come out creamy and well cooked. As the mixture begins to thicken really well, we must make sure to continuously stir. I promise you, this little bit of effort is absolutely well worth the results. It's only about 2 to 3 minutes of total cooking time once you add the polenta until it becomes nice and thick, as you can see here. We're going to go ahead and pull it off of the heat and grab our mold, which in this case is a plate, and get ready to form the polenta into a thin layer. Now, whatever mold you're using, it's important that you get a nice even layer of polenta. It doesn't matter if it's thin or thick, it just needs to be even. One thing that I like to do is add a little bit of margarine or butter to the top and spread it with my spoon. This helps it from sticking to the back of the spoon and allows me to go ahead and form a nice even layer across the mold. Simply work from the center out, pushing it in nice, smooth, even motions. What you're looking to do is form a relatively even layer so that it can cool, and then when we cook it later on in the oil, it will cook evenly. Now that the polenta is in a nice even layer, we need to bring it down to room temperature. I like to place a cup underneath the plate, improving the airflow around and underneath the polenta to cool down. Once it comes to room temperature, we're going to place into the refrigerator for at least an hour before frying. After spending 1 hour in the fridge, the polenta is nice and firm. You can see here I'm smacking with my finger and it has a nice spring back. This is exactly what we're looking for. You want a nice firm polenta cake in order to fry. I'll begin by cutting down the center and making 2 even portions. This is 1 cup of polenta, which makes it 2 really generous portions. However, you can easily make this into 3 portions as a side dish if you wish. It doesn't matter what shape you cut them into, so long as they are all even. You're looking for the same relative size and shape so that they all cook at the same time. As I have here, I've cut the polenta into nice even-sized French fries. I have a small piece of scrap here on the end, which I'm going to actually hold aside for later. I cut it into 2 pieces. What I'll do is actually place this into the oil to test the temperature before placing the rest of the polenta into fry. It's a real easy way, if you don't have a thermometer, to check to make sure that your oil is hot enough before frying. I'm going to go ahead and test the oil temperature here by placing that small test piece of polenta into the oil. I'm shooting for 375 degrees. which may seem a little high. However, the high moisture content of the polenta requires a little bit extra energy from the oil. This temperature looks good to me. As you can see, it's starting to bubble immediately when placed in there. You can use vegetable oil, canola oil, soybean oil, peanut oil. All those will work equally well. The only oil that you really want to stick clear of is something like sesame oil or olive oil. I'm going to go ahead and cook 2 batches. As you can see here, I'm going to place each piece of polenta into the oil slowly and safely, and make sure that they don't stick. It's very critical at this stage that you make sure that the pieces stay separated so that they can cook evenly. For the first few minutes of cooking, the pieces were going to want to stick quite a bit. However, after they start to set a crust on the outside, that will not be an issue. Place each piece in with a little bit of room around it, and make sure to move around for the first few minutes relatively constantly so that they do not stick. As the polenta cooks, you're going to want to make sure to flip it so that each side gets cooked evenly. The total cooking time was around 8 to 10 minutes for this portion of polenta. It is a high moisture content food, so it takes a little bit extra to get that nice crispy exterior. Once it reaches the level of crispiness that you like, you're going to want to go ahead and pull them off and place them onto a draining rack or paper towels, as you can see here. All right, and to finish off, as soon as you pull these out of the oil, you're going to go ahead and place a little bit of salt over the top just for that extra little kick right before you serve. And that's it, guys. It is that simple. That's how you make fried polenta, which is guaranteed to please the entire family. Hey, remember, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel. Hit that bell icon so that you get notified every time that we release a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you soon.